This is what he's announcing today. He has said that the reciprocal tariff, this is Scott Besson who announced it, the reciprocal tariff on China, where we jacked ours up to 125 and then they jacked theirs up on us to 125 for all goods, is now going to 10%.
I remember that I was talking to my husband about China and all of the craziness that's going on there right now, right? You look at these videos and you just go, how on earth?
U.S. said the reductions will last for 90 days while the talks continue.
And I just said, how is this possible? How is it possible? Where?
So it's higher. We're definitely charging more for Chinese goods to come into this country.
They don't know what they're fighting for. This is how it's always been.
But Besant says the consensus as the U.S. met with China over the weekend was that we will reach a fuller trade agreement that, quote, neither side wants a decoupling.
It brought me to an understanding of how delicate freedom is.
It's like it had to happen. The markets were just too bad, the bond market in particular.
Megyn Kelly allegedly dropped explosive new receipts, proving that China's shutdown of Hermes and Louis Vuitton production in just 48 hours, and all because of corporate fraud. Now, this isn't just speculation, not just whispers, but there's hard receipts. I think this is one of the most jaw-dropping exposés of the year, and honestly, it might reshape the entire luxury fashion industry as we know it. Now, let's be clear, this isn't some niche YouTube gossip or niche, however you say it. This is Megyn Kelly, a former Fox heavyweight and a media firebrand, coming out swinging against two of the biggest names in fashion. And she's not pulling any punches. She says China caught them red-handed, fabricated origins, fake tags, and what looks like a deliberate strategy to manipulate, us, the global consumer. She expected this kind of drama in a Hollywood script, not in a supposedly polished, pristine world of high fashion. But Kelly framed it like a blockbuster reveal, and once you hear the details, you'll understand why I think she's right. Because if these receipts are even halfway accurate, then everything you thought about luxury might have just turned into dust. And what happens next could really just change fashion, business, and trust forever.
Most of them are made in China, and most of them are made in our factory. Yeah, I'm telling you. But why these luxury brands never tell you that? Because they are trying to pretend to be products of some sophisticated European countries like Italy or France.
We are going to be successful. In a few weeks, the shop was open. We sell the most expensive products in a country where everybody was going by.
According to Kelly, these weren't rumors, they were internal communications. And there were real time-stamp messages sent between Chinese manufacturers and their corporate counterparts. And the content, man, is just absolutely chilling. Factories were allegedly notified by internal compliance monitors that, in quotes, ongoing practices violate expert ethics and global labeling laws. And just hours later, a second wave of messages reportedly instructed them to shut everything down. There was no appeals, no explanations. Only really two words were said, which was cease production. Now, both Hermes and Louis Vuitton, massive multi-billion-dollar entities, were hit within a 48-hour window. It was surgical almost. Kelly calls it a coordinated pullback, the likes of which luxury hasn't seen in decades. And the reason, which is corporate fraud, not negligence, not clerical errors, just fraud. Now, according to Kelly, the receipts point to mispresentations of origin, mislabeling, and mass-scale manipulation of production data. That's not just bad business, that's a global scandal. And if this is how these brands operate behind closed doors, what else are they hiding?
A slowdown and a contraction in the global luxury market. About 50 million people either opted out or were forced out of the luxury market over the past 2 years.
I do feel people started to get tired of purchasing products and realized that we just bought too much. And it didn't really make us happy.
Megyn Kelly alleges that Louis Vuitton Made in France tag game was a complete illusion. According to factory reports, Chinese workers were instructed to place premium tags to bags that weren't even close to France, let alone touched by French hands. Let that sink in. Customers were paying thousands of dollars for the prestige of French craftsmanship, only to get a product assembled thousands of miles away under vastly different standards. It's crazy. And when factory employees raised concerns, they were silenced. Kelly says supervisors were told to discipline dissent, while internal Q&A teams or quality assurance teams were reportedly instructed to delete digital records of sourcing locations. This wasn't just about moving manufacturing, this was about erasing footprints. I think it's worse than just a business messed up. This feels like corporate sleight of hand, deceiving the very people who put these brands on pedestals. Now, according to Kelly, one document even references an executive memo. Perception is a product. If that line is real, it's game over. That's pure manipulation, which I think we all think kind of already knew that, really. Like, they try to like make it seem like it's some crazy thing to be a part of Hermes or Louis Vuitton. Like, you have to be like only the cool people are here, right? Like, that's what they're trying to do. But anyways, then it came the breaking point. China yanked the plug on production, not because of delays, not because of policy shifts, but because they saw what was happening and they decided they wouldn't be complicit anymore. And if you thought that was bad, Hermes might be worse.
These are pieces of artwork. These artisans train years and years to make one of these bags.
Fabrice is doing the last stitching on a Kelly bag. A Kelly takes around 13 hours to be made, depending on the materials that we make it. Our artisans, they need to do 4 years of training to be able to manufacture a Kelly bag.
Well, Hermes says, made in China, does it feel cheaper? No, that's not a quality issue. It's luxury brand washing.
According to Kelly, after LV was exposed, factory insiders began coming forward with shocking claims about Hermes. The allegations, I believe that the same tricks of mislabeling, deceptive logistics, hidden factories were happening with their most prized creations, the Birkins and the Kelly bags. You know, the bags that go for 10K to 150K a piece? Yeah, those. I think KK even paid $400,000 for hers. So anyways, allegedly, they produced using same Chinese assembly lines and routed through Europe for the final stamping just to maintain the illusion of French purity. Yeah, it sounds like they just make them and then they send them to France in the little workshops. I don't know if you guys seen those. They're just like little small like workshops and with like artisans and stuff like that. They wear the same imprints that you see at a like $15 to $25 like hamburger spot, like a hipster one. You know what I'm talking about, with fucking like the burgers that are like mediocre but they cost you $20. Like those bartenders wearing exactly the same thing. Now, just like LV, Hermes didn't see it coming. The factories didn't stall or negotiate. They pull out immediately, and I think that speaks volumes. This is just that manufacturers had receipts of their own, enough to feel confident walking away from one of the most exclusive brands on earth. And what's worse, some insiders now claim Hermes allegedly used their connections to threaten whistleblowers. Kelly didn't confirm names, but she emphasized that power players in Europe are trying to bury this, which only makes the silence louder. Hermes didn't hesitate. They came out swinging, but not in the way you expect. Instead of addressing the alleged fraud or the eternal chaos exposed by whistleblowers, they pivoted the blame outward. Hermes reportedly filed lawsuits against several of the manufacturers, citing defamation, breach of NDA, and misuse of intellectual property. That alone tells you everything. They didn't deny the claims, they attacked the messengers. And let's be honest, this isn't normal, you know? Brands this elite rarely sue their own supply chain partners. It's taboo, it's like, why would they do that? And it risks exposing even more behind the scenes ugliness in court filings. So why do it? So Kelly thinks the answer is simple, that they're hiding something. They're suing as a distraction tactic, a way to shift the spotlight, a power move designed to scare others into silence, but it might have backfired. Because if the courts allow any of the sealed evidence to go public, emails, shipping manifests, internal correspondence, this could snowball. I'm talking internal memos about cost-cutting, decisions to rebrand Chinese goods as European luxury, and conversations where executives flat out admit to manipulating perception. If even a fraction of that becomes public, Hermes won't be facing bad PR, they'll be facing consumer revolt. Now, the lawsuits may be dressed up in corporate language, but this isn't a panic response. And if they're trying to intimidate factors into retracting statements, sorry, I'm a little, challenged sometimes with some words. But yeah, anyways, then I think the cover-up may already be worse than the crime. Hermes and LV scrambled behind closed doors, China is standing tall. And according to Megyn Kelly, they have every reason to. This wasn't just about shutting down factories, it was a declaration, a line in the sand. China took action before the media frenzy, before the lawsuits, and before Western consumers even had a clue. They didn't wait for a scandal, they preempted one. And now, they're being hailed as the ones who blew the whistle on the biggest luxury illusion in modern fashion. Kelly says this proves China's industrial arm is no longer willing to be exploited or complicit. They want the world to see them as not labor for hire, but as guardians of ethical production standards. It's kind of crazy. The fact that they pulled the plug on their own contracts without waiting for a court order or public outrage, that speaks volumes. This was a power play and it worked. And now Chinese state media is already celebrating. Phrases like integrity over industry and accountability over appearance are being broadcast as national talking points. And maybe Kelly's right. Maybe China is the one enforcing high standards where Western brands just pretend to, because when the factories had to choose between profit and principle, they chose principle. That says a lot. Now, the silence from other luxury houses is pretty deafening, and that's exactly what has people talking. Rumors are already swirling. Who's next? What about Dior? What about Chanel? Are they clean? What about Gucci? How many more of these brands have been funneling the manufacturing through the same covert channels? Because now that one domino has fallen. Everyone's bracing for impact. According to Kelly, some factories in southern China have begun quietly backing out of new contracts with European fashion firms. And why? Because they don't want to be next. They don't want to risk becoming collateral damage if another whistleblower speaks up. This isn't fear, it's just foresight. Factories are finally realizing that loyalty to the brand might come at a cost of their own reputations. And I think the industry knows it's sitting on a minefield, because even if one more brand gets caught faking tag origins or manipulating price justification based on false, ideas, this whole illusion of exclusivity goes up in flames. Now let's call it what it is. Hermes is suing. Allegedly, Louis Vuitton is in hiding, and luxury fashion is at a tipping point. What happens next could redefine the entire industry. If more evidence comes out, we could see brand executives being subpoenaed. We could see high-end products pulled off the shelves. We could even see class action lawsuits from consumers who spent thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of what they thought were heritage-made products. And here's a real question: will these brands actually change, or will they double down on damage control and a marketing spin? Consumers are smarter now. Social media has closed the gap between whispers and headlines. You can't bury a scandal this big without or with a campaign ad. Now, Kelly says this is the wake-up call, and I say it's a reckoning. The luxury world has built its empire of mystique, secrecy, and perception, but the curtain's been pulled back. If trust erodes, so does the price tag, and if exclusivity becomes synonymous with dishonesty, the whole foundation cracks. Will the brands finally be forced to open their books, trace their supply chains, and label their goods honestly, or will they just rebrand the same deception under a new sustainable buzzword? Because at this point, it's not just about fashion, it's about ethics, it's about truth, and it's for some of these brands, it's about survival. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Luxury fashion has always been built on illusion, the illusion of scarcity, the illusion of exclusivity, the illusion that what you're buying isn't just an object, but a story, a status, a symbol of refinement. But now that illusion is shattering, and not just for Louis Vuitton or Hermes. This scandal is exposing something much bigger. The entire luxury business model is under fire. Megyn Kelly makes a strong case that what people have been paying for, $10K handbags, $2K belts, $800 wallets, isn't just French craftsmanship, it's brand theater, a stage production carefully orchestrated by marketers, executives, and supply chain strategists. And if that's true, then what are people really buying? They're not paying for quality, you're paying for deception, dressed up in a glossy and ad campaigns and storefront, marble, which is crazy, right? Think about it. How many of these luxury houses still produce their goods entirely in France or Italy or Switzerland? Almost none. Behind the scenes, it's a logistical dance of outsourcing, offshoring, and cost cutting, all while the front-facing narrative screams handmade in Europe. They slap on a tag, they take a picture of cobblestone ally, and they hope you never ask questions. But we're asking questions now. So, because if Kelly's claims does hold up and these receipts get verified, then luxury loses its last great defense, which is trust. That sacred belief that when you buy Hermes or Louis Vuitton, you're investing in something authentic, even if a sliver of that trust is broken. It's not just about a refund, it's about a psychological break between brand and buyer. And here's the thing, that bond isn't easy to rebuild. Once you open someone's eyes to how the trick works, the magic's gone permanently. Let that sink in. Luxury houses, global icons reportedly take down by eternal fraud. and revealed by whistleblower receipts and sharp factory action. Megyn Kelly says China is right, and now we have to ask, is luxury still luxurious or just another misleading label? Keep your eyes on the courtroom drama, watch the factories, and don't let the looks fool you. It may be layers of deception, not craftsmanship. Now, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys liked this video. Yes, this is my real voice. I am Mexican, so this is who I am, and yeah, look forward to making some more content for you guys. So hit the subscribe button, give me a like, a comment, even if you hate it, because you know that helps me get better. Thank you guys.